Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. It's I, Jonathan Voico, your technical director for the day on the John Campea Show. I'm not alone here today, though. Of course, we've got Robert Meyer Burnett visiting us from his studio.
One and all, thanks for joining us on this great Monday.
And of course, we've got John, our fearless leader, on the road.
How you doing, guys? I'm currently in Michigan. We just wrapped up our final stop on this leg of the movie meetup tour in Toronto. It was a great night with everybody. Of course, we've got Rob honoring me being on the show by pulling his best Canadian Corey Hart imitation, wearing his sunglasses at night. So you want to explain those? I thought it was fast. I actually thought there was a fascinating reason why you're wearing those.
Okay, so I buy these cheap ass reader glasses because my eyes are not great. Good, they're as I get older. I mean, they're normally great, but and the reader glasses I wear are 1.75, and they come with 5 colored rims, and then these sunglasses. Well, I've broken all my 5 colored rims. These are the only ones remaining that are the proper
focal length.
Focal length. So I did go. To be fair, I did go to CVS and buy them, but I bought the wrong ones, and I can't look at the screen. It gives me a headache, but I will alleviate this problem today. So I'm not trying to be a douche or look like Joel Goodson from 1983's Risky Business.
I think you look great. Anyway, guys, good to have you here. This is, of course, a show where we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming and all that good stuff. And we do have a lot of stuff to get to here today. So we're going to get things kicked off with this. Listen, when you're talking about like some of the greatest filmmakers of all time, somewhere on the list, doesn't necessarily have to be at the top of your list or maybe even in the top 3, but somewhere in that discussion, you have to bring up the name Clint Eastwood. You just do. The guy is one of only 21 directors in film history that ever won more than one Best Director Academy Award. As a matter of fact, only 3 people have won more than 2. And so you have Clint Eastwood, who has won 2. I think he won them for Unforgiven and not Gone Baby Gone, $1 Million Baby. Mm-hmm. That he won that for. He, I think, was nominated for, 7,000 Academy Awards. He won 4 Academy Awards, both here's the thing. He's one of those double threats, one of those rare guys in the business where he's like one of the most iconic actors of all time and one of the best directors of all time. You very, very rare kind of blend. Yeah. I made a little list here. You want to talk about some of the movies he's directed? How about $1 Million Baby, which of course won Best Picture. Mystic River, which I think was nominated for Best Picture. Letters from Iwo Jima, which I also think was nominated for Best Picture. American Sniper, which was also nominated for Best Picture. The Outlaw Josie Wales, The Bridges of Madison County, Gran Torino, A Perfect World, on. And of course, what I consider to be the greatest Western ever made and one of the greatest movies ever made, Unforgiven. Unforgiven is like just one of those staple movies. You gotta have that one in your repertoire. You have to watch it. Simply one of the greatest movies of all time. And absolutely, I think the best Western ever made. Well, Clint Eastwood, while many people have suspected it for a while, his son has just confirmed it in an interview with The Playlist that Clint Eastwood, now at the age of 96, has retired. One of the greatest of all time. Has decided to call it a career, and what a career it has been, because not only when we talk about all his director achievements, you look at what he's acted in: Escape from Alcatraz, Gran Torino, Bridges of Madison County, In the Line of Fire. I love In the Line of Fire. I think that might be his most underrated.
I love that.
And John Malkovich is so good in it.
Oh, so good. And the two of them together are so great in it. Outlaw Josie Wales, Dirty Harry,
my favorite Western,
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and of course, $1 Million Baby, and of course, he not only directed, but he starred in Unforgiven. It is simply one of the greatest careers ever in the history of Hollywood. A consummate movie star and one of its greatest creators, all wrapped into one guy. And, even that, what was that last one he put? I think it was called Juror Number 6.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a banger. Like, that was a really good film. I'm not going to say one of his best, but it was a really good film too. The guy was still doing it in his 90s, and apparently now has finally decided that he's earned it. He's earned it. He's done enough. He's contributed and given enough. It's time for him to hang it up.
Didn't even mention Dirty Harry.
We can say, I think I did. I think
no,
I did.
But I mean, we always talk about his Westerns, and it's like, he just transcends so much. I mean, you mentioned Bridges of Madison County. I mean, you'd never think of him for that role, and he killed it.
And you know what was, I think might have been the first Clint Eastwood movie I ever watched. Firefox. And no, ladies and gentlemen, we are not talking about the internet browser. This was long. You must think in Russian. Now it's not one of his better movies, but that was the first movie I ever saw of Clint Eastwood's, and it lives with me forever. So when we're going to talk today about this iconic, legendary, one of the greatest of all time careers, we got to talk about, what we thought his best was. And like, for me, it's no surprise. It's Unforgiven. Like, Unforgiven is just such a powerful, it's both a metaphor of like a million different things, and it became like the consummate like tentpole of what Westerns can and should be and aspire to. It's just one of those films that every time I watch it, I never cease to just be agog and aghast, just my mouth open going, like the power in every single scene of that movie, like right down to the end when he just starts taking everybody out. It's just, and the legendary Gene Hackman, and it just goes on and on and on. It's so great. And honestly, I know when you talk about your favorite performances of Clint Eastwood, understandably, a lot of people are going to go to one of his Westerns. Of course, no doubt. I have no problem with that. But even though I think it was technically a supporting role, I still think his performance in $1 Million Baby was just remarkable, right up to the end of that very controversial ending of the film, and the power in it with the internal struggle. It's truly one of the finest performances I've ever seen. So anyway, Clint Eastwood officially now, like I said, a lot of people had suspected it, but it's now official. He has hung it up and decided to call it a career now that he's 96 years old. And there's very few people, Rob, very few people that we can point to and say, oh, this person has contributed more to the world of film than Clint Eastwood. He's absolutely one of the greats. And I love the fact that we get to celebrate him right now instead of only celebrating him once he passes away. But I mean, what a career, what a gift. So Rob, let me ask you, when you think about the career of Clint Eastwood, what are the things that come to your mind the most? Also, what's your favorite directed film of his and acted performance of his?
John, I mean, Clint Eastwood has been a lifetime favorite of mine. I mean, going back to Tarantino calls The Man with No Name trilogy one of the great trilogies of all time, and I would agree. Arrow Video released remastered versions of Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more, and Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I mean, I love those movies. I've watched those movies countless times.
How about the Hot Toys?
And yeah, Sideshow actually, but they're great.
Oh, Sideshow, yes.
Yeah, but the thing, and then you get into, once he wasn't in those anymore, he did his own Westerns, kind of like in the 70s, things like Hang 'em High, which is great, or High Plains Drifter, which is great. And then he went and began directing with an incredible thriller, Play Misty for Me. And then other movies. Of course, I loved Dirty Harry Callahan. There's 5 Dirty Harry movies, and I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? But I love those movies. And if you think about that, you've got The Man with No Name, which, by the way, he might have come back in movies like Pale Rider. And then you've got the Dirty Harry movies. Then you've got when he was in Every Which Way, but Any Which Way
Loose.
Yeah, yep. Every Which Way But Loose and Any Which Way You Can, where he's playing a comedic foil to Clyde the orangutan.
Right.
Yeah,
and then
so great.
He kept directing. He started. There was all kinds of movies of the mountain climbing movie, The Eiger Sanction. There's a movie called The Gauntlet.
I forgot about that,
with Sandra Locke, that I really love. And then you brought up Firefox, which is the great genre summer of '82, which had some really impressive visual effects work in that movie. And then as he kind of moved through the '80s and '90s, I mean, I think, like you said, Unforgiven is not just one of my favorite Westerns. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And even that came out in '92. So I think of Unforgiven as a fairly new movie in Clint Eastwood's oeuvre. when I was working at Warner Brothers, they made the movie The Rookie, where he teamed up with Charlie Sheen, and they brought out the Mercedes 500 series car, and even that was like they play buddy cops, and he's made movies all the way up through now. And the guy's had one of the great careers of all time. And anybody who's ever worked with him, he basically does one take. He made was it Invictus, where he had Matt Damon playing a South African footballer, or and I mean, the guy can do no wrong. I mean,
how have none of us mentioned Space Cowboys yet?
Yeah, some people in the
Space Cowboys.
Audience
that to do with James Garner, and he was, and that's the great thing about Clint Eastwood. He was never a one-trick pony. Yes, most people think of him for his westerns, of course, but he was not a one-trick pony. He was able to diversify, and Rob, you pointed out, he could do comedy. I think his such sternness. And you know what? 30 years ago, he would have been the perfect Cable in an X-Men movie.
Yeah.
Like the perfect Cable. All due respect to Josh Brolin, but like Clint Eastwood 30 years ago, Cable.
Or if 100%. They made Dark Knight Returns, he could have played the old Batman. Yep. I mean, John, what's so great about him is he's really represents a life in Hollywood, a life in, and he's never, I mean, sure, he's had his romances with various women, but he's always had a level of class about him.
Mm-hmm.
The work that he's done, like you brought up in The Line of Fire, that is Wolfgang Peterson directed that. That is an incredible thriller, and he never shied away from playing older. No,
he really embraced it. As he got older, he really embraced it.
Oh, so
it got him Academy Awards.
I wanted to show this.
Even a movie I didn't like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, finish your thought. I thought you were done.
Well, he was in a movie called Bronco Billy that I went and saw. I didn't particularly love Bronco Billy.
I completely forgot about that.
I know. So if you start thinking about his career, it was incredible. But even that, I always loved watching him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I didn't care what
do you got there, Jonathan?
I'm sitting under a Outlaw Josie Wales poster. I actually grabbed it real quick. Do that every time. But that's how much I love this movie and Clint Eastwood.
It's a great movie.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? It is now what a lot of us suspected for a while, but it is now official. Clint Eastwood, according to his son, is now retired. One of the greatest of all time. When you think of Clint Eastwood, what films do you think of? What's your favorite directed film by Clint Eastwood? What's your favorite acted film by Clint Eastwood? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? I've been on the road now for going on 12 days since I left. And so the only movies I've been able to see is Mandalorian and Grogu 5 times because I've been seeing it at the movie meetups. But there's a couple of big movies I'm really excited to watch that I haven't had a chance to see yet. And one of those that I've been so excited about since the first trailer dropped was that for Backrooms, with one of my absolute favorite actors in the world. I think the most underappreciated actor in the world right now, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and a dynamite cast supporting him as well. And, I thought when we saw that big trailer come out for it, we thought, you know what, this thing could do pretty well. I thought maybe even as high as a $55 million opening weekend. Maybe, if it's lucky. Well, Backrooms just came out and has had, without exaggeration, one of the greatest opening weekends for a horror film ever. As Backrooms made $81.5 million to take the top spot from Mandalorian and Grogu, which dropped down to number 3, by the way, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And just kind of blow every expectation completely out of the water. As a matter of fact, it is now one of the biggest opening weekends of the year. Take a look at this list here. So as we look at the movie openings, the biggest opening weekends of 2026 so far, Super Mario Galaxy movie still sits at number 1 for now, with 131 million. Michael, the second biggest opening at 97. Mandalorian and Grogu, just by the skin of its little Grogugian teeth, at 81.6 million. But look at this, Backrooms, the number 4 biggest opening movie of the year at 81.5 million. Then, of course, Project Hail Mary in the number 5 spot at $80.5 million. First of all, it is amazing to be at this point in the year and see numbers like this. We truly are in the box office recovery now and back to pre-pandemic levels. But I mean, I don't think, Rob, even the most optimistic, I don't even think the most optimistic of people would have guessed an $81 million opening for this film, considering it had a good ad campaign, but it didn't seem particularly exhaustive. Like, I didn't see a ton of marketing for it. And now, yeah, it had a big YouTube following for sure, but we've seen other things with YouTube followings open to what we call good numbers, but significantly smaller than what this opened with. So I am now, and I haven't seen the movie yet myself, because again, I've been on the road for 12 days. I'm hoping I get to see it as soon as I get home, but I'm excited for it. I thought it looked good right from the get-go. Rob, why did this movie, with a good marketing campaign, but limited nonetheless, what was it about this film that captured the attention of so many people in the movie-going audience that it's, as of right now, like the number 4 or 3 or 4 biggest opening weekend of the year so far? What do you think about it?
Well, this movie is actually, I would consider it an IP, in the sense that when,
sure, yeah, that's fair.
When the meme, you know, when it was finally, the picture comes from the early 2000s, the original photo, but when it became memed out and a little background was given back in 2019, you had people like Kane Pixels come along, who directed the Backrooms feature film, and start to make short films and created his own mythology. I watched an interview with him. He's got an 80-page Bible that he wrote about where he's taking all of this, and he already knows what it's all about. So for the last basically 6 years, he's been building out, he's been making many short films in this universe, and people have become, there's a whole community around the Backrooms. And so I think that you didn't need, all you had to do was tell this community that previously, that already existed, that was already very active in this community, the movie was coming out. And I felt the same way when I went and saw this, that I felt when I was watching Markiplier's Iron Lung, in the sense that the theater was packed. You know, and Iron Lung did not have much marketing at all. It was just Markiplier himself.
Well, it also made a minuscule amount of money compared to what Backrooms made.
Sure, but I think Backrooms is a much bigger deal. I mean, Markiplier was just this was actually a continuation of a story that had been ongoing for 6 years. And I think that's why, plus I thought it was, I love the movie. I've delved into the Backrooms lore over the years and watched the films, and not all of them, but I've always found it pretty interesting. And this whole liminal space horror and the whole creepypasta movement and all this. And then the movie, I thought it worked really well in a Lynchian, Kubrickian. It reminded me of even the movies that I like that aren't necessarily related, like Antonio Oni's Ennui trilogy, La Notte, La Ventura, and The Eclipse. And then there's another movie called Last Year at Marienbad. That's it's a favorite film of mine from the early 60s. And it's really interesting, like this. And dude, the audience freaking loved this. I mean, people might not have liked the movie after they left, but while they were watching it, you could hear a pin drop. Nobody was on their phones, and I was clearly the oldest person in the theater. And when we went outside, the theater, it was packed, and everybody was in line getting their refreshments. There was a buzzing amongst this audience. I mean, this is truly, I think, both this and Obsession will be looked back as Gen Z zeitgeist movies, because the people were stoked. You would have thought that it would have been the kind of excitement that we would have had for a Star Wars movie back in the day. But this was for I loved seeing all these people lined up in the Spectrum, to get popcorn, to get whatever. There was no Backrooms popcorn bucket, but I would have bought one if there was. I guess you'd get one that wasn't really there. I don't know.
Just a plain off-white box.
Yeah, that would
have been the perfect popcorn box for.
I saw actually someone do a thing like a Backrooms-esque thing at the Burbank 16. John, you might be familiar with this. If you go to the top of like the Dolby Cinema or the IMAX, there's an exit, and it has and there's a restroom back there, and it has like back rooms to like all the other theaters and like yellow hallways. No. So someone did that. Yeah, because you can connect to other from the top. So someone did that and made like a Backrooms at the Burbank 16.
That's a cool idea. Now, again, the one thing about the difference between, say, like a Backrooms and Obsession, which we'll talk about in a minute here, but is that, and Iron Lung, is that, Iron Lung and Backrooms don't have the best audience responses. I think Backrooms has had a better audience response than Iron Lung, but Obsession is one that has been really peaked. But we'll talk about that in a minute here. I'm just really curious about, so many people rushed out to see this. Look, I went back and I started watching all the Backroom stuff that was on YouTube when the first trailer dropped a while ago. And I'm like, this is really fascinating. This is really cool stuff. But like on its surface, there's nothing particularly attention grabbing about it. There's really nothing it doesn't really have a big hook to it. So I thought the trailer looked really good, but that's why I thought maximum it's going to make, and it'll be great. 55 million would be amazing for this thing to make. So I think they're going to do a lot of clinical dissection of this and what went into the opening of this film. Now, I don't know how it's going to do on its second weekend. Again, it's got, people generally seem to like it. Rob, I know you loved it. But it doesn't have the biggest of reception. So I'm going to be curious to see, does it take a 60% drop? Does it take a 40%? Like, I just don't know. So it's going to be really interesting to see.
It's not a film for everybody. I mean, it's not a fast.
Well, no horror film is, right?
But this one is a particular slow burn, and I think you have to be, if you like Twin Peaks and you like Mulholland Drive, and they're very different kinds of movies, both Obsession and this, but it just really appealed to me.
Well, I'm excited to watch it now. Somebody in the live chat said, well, John, why don't you just pull off the road one night and just go into what? Because we have a clock on trying to get back home. We've been on the road for 12 days. We're trying to get home. I've got tickets to an advanced fan screening of Masters of the Universe on Wednesday. We don't have 4 hours I can pull off the road to go and watch Obsession and Backdoors. Or Backrooms, unfortunately. I keep saying Backdoors. Backrooms, unfortunately, but I'm going to maybe see it Wednesday after I see Masters of the Universe on the same night. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? We just had one of the biggest openings of the year, and honestly, one of the biggest openings for any horror film ever with Backrooms. What do you think caught so many people's attention that made it had such a big opening weekend? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on and talk about this. While Backrooms was, taking over the top spot at the box office, another little horror film has just made box office and Hollywood history. As the movie Obsession, which people are loving. As a matter of fact, at our Boston movie meetup, my wife, Anne, who flew out to meet us there, instead of coming in to watch Mandalorian the Grogu with us, she decided to slip into the next theater and watch Obsession, and she loved it. And so she wants her and I to go to see it as soon as I get back. Now, of course, we talked last week about how it took like a big jump in box office. Normally, you want to see a movie take between a 50 and 60% drop at the box office in its second weekend. That's normal. If it drops less than 40%, you're popping bottles. If it drops more than 60%, then you're a little bit worried. But Obsession did the unthinkable. It actually went up. Well, this weekend, it just made history. As on its third weekend, the first time in 44 years since E.T., a movie has gone up again in its third weekend, as it went up 33% to make $26.4 million on its third weekend. Remember, it made $17 million on its opening weekend. Now, I've had a lot of people write to me and say, well, John, no, this movie went up, and this movie went up, and this movie went up. Here's the thing. Yes, there have been examples where movies have gone up in the box office, but never pure. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean this. There's one of three circumstances that is almost always in play when a movie's box office goes up from one weekend to the next. Here are those three. We'll take a look at them. First of all, the expansion illusion. Now, we talked about this before. A lot of times movies will open up in 10 theaters or 15 theaters as a limit, but it's officially now open, right? And then on week 2 or 3, it expands to 2,000 theaters. Well, of course, the box office goes up, but we don't count that. That's the expansion illusion. The second, that's happened with movies like King's Speech, La La Land, and several others. Now, then there's the Christmas holiday. This happens when a movie opens a couple of weeks before Christmas, but then the Christmas season hits. That's when the most people all year go to the movie theater, so you see a natural bump there. That's happened to movies like Avatar, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. But that's not pure. Like, that's because Christmas hit, so more people are going to the theaters. The third time we've seen things like that happen is the re-expansion. Now, this has happened a number of times where a movie's been in theaters, it's been out for a while, and then gradually it loses theaters that it's in, and it's after it's in its week 4, 5, 6. But then they decided to push it into a ton more theaters again. Now it's in the double amount of theaters, and then you see that goes up. We saw that with one of the Terrifier movies. That happened there. But this, with Obsession, this is the first time that where a movie just opened big and then still in the same amount of theaters, went up in its second week, and still roughly in the same amount of theaters, went up again in its third week. You got to go back to E.T. Mm-hmm. You got to go back more than 4 decades.
Similar movies
to when
too.
This has happened before. What's that?
Similar movies too.
Oh yeah, completely alike, right? Yeah. Like completely similar. I mean, this is not hyperbole, guys. When I say this is Hollywood history, I don't know when you're going to see something like this again. Like, I really don't. If you had asked me a year ago, do I ever think we would see it where a theater opens in its wide release, and then for 2 consecutive weeks, from weeks 1 to 2 and from weeks 2 to 3, it actually consecutively goes up? I would have said, no, that can't happen. Now, granted, I admit with Obsession opening to just 17 million, that left it some room for growth, sure. But tons of movies have opened to 20 or less $1 million,
especially in this genre.
Up.
Yeah, especially in this genre.
Especially in this genre.
Yeah.
Especially in this genre. And I just think this is absolutely remarkable. And Rob, I think this speaks volumes to the fact that, number one, it did have an excellent ad campaign. Yes. And number 2, they redoubled down on the ad campaign after the movie already opened, which doesn't happen often. But number 3, and I think most importantly, has been the insane word of mouth. I know there are people out there, Rob, who don't like this movie, but I have not spoken to a single one of them. Every single person I've spoken to has seen it, including all the people who have come to our movie meetups in Columbus, New York, Boston, Toronto. Every one of them are like, oh my God, Obsession's so great. Like, everybody I've talked to who has seen it straight up loves it. And I think that positive word of mouth has, now, if Obsession had opened to $60 million, Rob, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. I don't think we'd be seeing the box office going up 2 weeks in a row, but still tons of movies have opened to 20 million or less and have never come close to this. First time in 44 years. Rob, what is giving Obsession this staying power? And put this into context for us historically about truly how big of a deal this is.
Well, I think you just nailed it. It is a word of mouth movie. In my mind, it's truly a zeitgeist film because it's all about, I mean, we've heard, there's been countless op-eds, think pieces about how come Gen Z, people in their 20s, aren't dating. Why is the dating world the way it is? Why are people's interpersonal relationships kind of in the dumps? Well, this is a movie that directly addresses that idea. How is it? Why doesn't this girl like me? How can I get her to like me? What do I have to do?
Yeah, because you and I never asked that question when we were teenagers.
Well, no, I mean, but that's the thing.
I know.
It's universal. It's a universal thing, but he tries to take a diabolical shortcut. And, there's something also inherent about a monkey's paw story. Be careful what you wish for. It's such an ancient, idea. But what happens is so wild. And it reminded me of? It reminded me of when something like Fatal Attraction came out.
Yes.
Back in the 80s.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, when you're watching, everybody talked about the situation. Like, what would you have done? Even though Michael Douglas cheated on Anne Archer, and Anne Archer was beautiful in the beginning of that movie, but people talked about it, and everybody had to be part of the conversation. So I think this has become a true cultural moment in the sense that it's a horror film. I love the fact that, they made it for $750,000. Focus Features picked it up for $15 million at Toronto, but it was done, it was directed in a very straightforward way. Watching Curry Barker talk about this film, both he and Kane Pixels are very intelligent guys, and when you listen to them speak about these movies, they have it. They have that thing that they need. I don't know if it's sustainable over multiple films, but this has a thoughtful. It makes you walk out. I got to tell you, when my friend Alvaro and I walked out of this movie, we talked for an hour and a half about it. It was something I haven't had that in so long. And it was really compelling. I didn't think it was perfect. I went and did a show about this movie, about the logic problems I had with it. But then again, you're talking about this kind of a movie. Does that even matter if there's logic problems?
No.
I mean, for me, maybe a little bit, but I just think this is capturing a moment in time, and the audience there. And if you're not part of the conversation, you want to become a part of the conversation. And if you are, then you go back and see it again. I think it's got one of those. It's its own thing. It's captured a moment in time that you don't get very often.
You just mentioned the one film that what this kind of reminds me of a little bit? It reminds me a bit, and I know these are two totally different movies, guys, but it reminds me a bit of My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
100%.
In the sense, if you remember, My Big Fat Greek Wedding was this movie that I think it still holds the record. I could be mistaken, but for a long time it did at least. It held the record for the movie that held a spot on the box office top 10 the longest without ever being the number one film.
Yeah.
It spent like half a year in the top 10 or something like that without ever being number one at the box office. Obsession has become the talk of the town, and it has never been number one. Like it came in like behind Michael and Something Else on its opening weekend. It came in behind Mandalorian on its second weekend. It's coming in behind Backrooms on its third weekend. And I don't think it'll ever be number one. I mean, Masters of the Universe will probably be number one next weekend, depending on how big of a drop that Backrooms has.
I mean,
yeah. It just has this feel of a movie that's going to just be hanging around a long time, depending on how fast they decide to take it to VOD. This movie could kind of just hang around in that top 10 list for quite a long time. And man, I just could, and here's another thing. This is an interesting thing. One of our live viewers was saying, it's a YouTuber who made the movie. I would not qualify him as a YouTuber. He's a filmmaker that put his stuff on YouTube.
Right.
I don't think I would call him a YouTuber. Like, he's not like Mr. Beast, who then decided to make a movie. Right.
It's different.
So it's a little bit of a different situation that I think something like that. But anyway, guys, don't undersell this. This is Hollywood history that we're seeing happening. It's not often that something happens that hasn't happened in over 4 decades. This is incredible. And I honestly don't know if we will ever see it happen again. Anyway, guys, whatever you think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this, shall we? We just talked about some great news for a couple of films at the box office. Well, now it's time to talk about The Mandalorian and Grogu. The Mandalorian and Grogu just came in 3rd place at the weekend box office, which is not terrible. That's not awful, especially in its, not in its opening weekend. But the movie dropped nearly 70% from weekend 1 to weekend 2. The movie Obsession, which was, behind it, has now become a usurper and taken its spot. So Backrooms is number 1, but Obsession took the number 2 spot from it. And remember, Mandalorian and Grogu opened to $81.6 million. Obsession opened to $17 million. Obsession is now past it. Mm-hmm. I mean, in overall box office, right. Mandalorian and Grogu is still comfortably ahead of it. But I mean, it's now ahead of it, dropped 70%. I was just talking a little bit earlier how, for context, when you're talking about a second weekend at the box office, you're generally looking at a 50 to 60% drop in weekend 2. If you fall between 50 and 60%, that's kind of par for the course. You drop less than 50, throw in a party. You drop more than 60, it's worrisome. You drop more than 65, somebody might be losing their job. This may not be the way. That's great. You drop 70%. That tells you nobody wanted to come back to watch your movie again, except this idiot who saw it 5 times. And nobody told other people to go see it. And Rob, to me, this is the manifestation of what we have been saying all year was our big concern about this, which was, how are you making your first return to the movie theaters for Star Wars in 7 years with just a glorified expansion episode of the television series, a series which had its worst outing in its last series? I think regardless of how much you like or don't like the third season, I think everybody agrees the third season was the weakest. Even if you really like it, like, you probably agree that the third season was the weakest. And so, sure, it's a Star Wars title. So that first weekend, a lot of people curious to check it out. Third weekend, Backrooms and Obsession beats it. And that's a problem. That's a real problem. That tells you people did not go back to see it a second time. They didn't bring other friends to come see it like they are for Obsession. And they probably recommended to people not to go see it. And the word of mouth has been pretty cool. It's been like icy cool on the whole thing. Now, I myself, I don't hate this movie. I don't particularly like it, but there are certainly things about it, Rob, that I like. There are certainly moments and sections of the film that I think are actually quite enjoyable. The problem is there's also a bunch that aren't. And I thought I would take a minute after seeing it for the 5th time last night, that I wanted to throw out there, not things that are wrong with the movie, but specifically, Rob, logic problems with the movie.
Okay. I'm ready.
The top 5 logic problems. So I'm going to give 2 honorable mentions, or should I say dishonorable mentions, of what I find with logic problems in this. Okay. By the way, guys, I should give you a warning. I'm going to go into some spoilery detail in the movie. According to the box office, none of you are going to see it anyway. But I do want to give you guys just a little bit of a warning that I'm going to have some spoilers in here for The Mandalorian and Grogu. Okay. So, Rob, I want your reaction to each of these. First, my dishonorable mentions. All right. Right at the beginning of the movie, Mando is going to take out this Imperial warlord on that snow planet, right?
Sure.
And as a last-ditch resort, the Imperial warlord gets into a ship to fly away. But by that point, Mando is already in the walker, could shoot him down. Why did the guy not just immediately get in a ship and fly away? Why, knowing that the Mandalorian was there to kill him, why didn't he just start with, hey, you know what? I think I'll get in one of my many available spaceships and fly away. No. You know what's a better plan? I'm going to get in this huge oversized walker and precariously make my way down this thin ridge on the side of a mountaintop where we are fish in a barrel. That one to me is just, and that's not even one of the worst. This is just one of the honorable mentions.
Because
that made no sense to me whatsoever.
That's easy. If you didn't have that, you wouldn't have gotten that awesome shot of the AT-AT fall. So like he had to get in the AT-AT, John, because they wouldn't have had that awesome shot of the AT-AT falling off the cliff. See, the shots dictate the logic.
You're talking about wanting the shit. That's the thing. But you have to make logic that, like, they taught us when I was taking that, the Dove S.S. Sims course that Quentin Tarantino recommended. When I took that film course, one of the big things he said is you always have to be able to answer the why, right? Even if you don't put the why on screen explicitly, if something happens, you have to give at least the implied reason of why that's happening. And as I'm watching, for the very first time I watch this movie, I'm like, oh, he's got why didn't he just get in that in the first place? Anyway, so that's one logic thing to me. The second honorable mention to me that made no logical sense is this. The Hutts now have Mando. They've captured him. You know, the other bounty hunters captured him, and they take his helmet. And one of the twins goes out of his way to say, Mandalorian steel, priceless. Yeah, okay. Wow, you're a crime lord, and this is priceless. What's the first thing he does? Tosses the helmet back into the pit. I'm like, oh, you know why? Here's the logic. Because we only have Pedro Pascal for one day on set. We got Pedro Pascal for like one day, so better give him his helmet back quick. But it made no sense. Here's your helmet back. That made no sense. But again, that's just an honorable mention. That's just an honorable mention. Let me get into the 5 really big logic problems that just left me in the theater every time I saw this movie going, what? Why did that happen? Okay, this is number 5. Gattori, the creature in the swamp who likes catching fish, right? Why did the bounty hunter show up, Rob? Why did he show up and not just say, I'm looking for a Mandalorian. Have you seen him? No. You know what the bounty hunter does? He gives him the full play-by-play of everything that happens. So Gattori's saying, oh, wow, the bounty hunter says you have a partner and your partner's badly hurt, that you guys were captured and you escaped from the twins, and your guy was bitten by a dragon snake. Oh, and he's been poisoned. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to make up this poison antidote. I don't even know what the fuck species your partner is. For all I know, everything I'm putting in this antidote can totally kill you. But whatever, I'm going to do that. It's just that the bounty hunter shows up and gives him all the play-by-play of everything that's happened, and it was all for exposition, and that just made no sense to me whatsoever. So Gattori getting the full rundown from the bounty hunter. Oh, by the way, and in that scene, the bounty hunter has this dog that's meant to help him hunt. What happens when he gets to Gattori's? The dog smells something and he pins his ears back and he starts walking towards Sonny. So you think that the bounty hunter would go, my scent tracking dog seems to have picked up the scent of somebody we're hunting. Nah, it's probably nothing. Let's just go. It's like, but wait a minute. But the guy said, hey, get away from my fish. The dog was nowhere near his fish. He was already well past the fish, smelling behind some boxes where somebody could easily be hiding. But the bounty hunter's like, nah, you've got to have a why. You have to have a why. The bounty hunter decides to abandon the hut and decides that there's no reason for them to search it. You've got to give a reason why, not just the fish guy going, hey, get away from my fish. Like, okay. Like, so that was stupid to me. All right. So there's that. At number 4, the mini ATST, going back to that initial sequence in the movie. When Mandalorian says, hop on, little Grogu jumps on, and they start to, for no reason, maniacally risk their lives running down the side of this mountain.
It's in the trailer. That shot is in the trailer.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. Does Mandalorian not have a jetpack? Does he not have a jetpack that A, would have got him down there a lot faster, B, would have allowed him to come up from behind the AT-AT walkers, and 3, would have been significantly safer? Like, I'm just sitting there because my buddy Ryan is the one who pointed this out to me. And I'm like, what? Yeah, why that you literally got this jetpack that you use as casually as walking every time else in the movie? It's like, oh, we're at the top of this death-defying mountain. Yeah, we better run down it in this crockety ATST Mini. That's the wise.
Yeah, just from the trailer, I thought the same thing. You don't even have to see the movie. From the trailer, I'm like, that shot makes no sense.
No, unless in the movie his jet, like he took a hit and his jetpack malfunctioned.
Sure,
but they needed it so he could fly away at the end. Like, you have to give a why. It's basic filmmaking. Give a why. So that part made no sense to me. Now each one of these gets worse and worse and worse. My number 3 at this, and this one was one I didn't notice until my 5th screening.
Good thing you went 5 times.
It's a good thing I went 5 times. At the end of the film, as all the New Republic ships get back to the New Republic base and land, and you see Mando get out of Zeb's U-Wing, and he starts to walk, and you know what's behind him as he's walking across the courtyard? The Razor Crest.
Nice.
I have a question. How the fuck did the Razor Crest get there? Because the last time we saw the Razor Crest, it was at his house on a different planet when he got taken by the bounty hunter. The Babu Freaks didn't take it. Baby Yoda didn't take it. That's where his ship was. 15 hours pass, and he gets back on the U-Wing, and the Razor Crest is just there.
Maybe he has a concierge service.
No explanation. Nothing. It's just there. It's like, well, how else can Mando say, can I give where he doesn't have a ship? But it's like, wait a minute. The last time we saw that ship, it was at his house still getting modified. And the Babu Freaks had their own ship. They didn't get it. It's just like, oh my God. Like, that's such a huge...
Aliens, man.
The Babu Freaks,
no,
baby.
The Babu Freaks.
It's the name of my band, the Babu Freaks.
The minions. Yeah. The minions of the Star Wars Empire. Again, it's a little thing, but it's such a basic flaw in filmmaking. It's like, you got to answer the why. Such a basic flaw in the filmmaking. So anywhere there was that. Okay. The next one for me at number 2. Can somebody explain to me why a baby stroller, number 1, has a hyperdrive in it, and number 2, why it has fucking cockpit controls for a baby? This is not the thing that Mando found Grogu in that could have been specialized where. There's literally a Rhodian mom just walking along, pushing her baby in the stroller. Grogu gets in it, hits one button, and he's traveling at 10,000 miles per hour.
I'm pretty sure the Kardashians have that for their babies.
Maybe Rhodians are early bloomers.
Maybe. But where is the safety commission? Where is the standard saying, like, you know what? This may not be safe for babies. We should make it go 1,000 miles per hour, and it should have its own actual controls in it. No problem. Like, I'm just watching this. I'm like, what the? How? What is happening here? Why can everything go that fast? So anyway, that again was just utterly ridiculous.
That fast.
So there's that. All right.
This is killing me.
There's somebody in the live chat saying MSRP saying you guys are nitpicking. If you think this is nitpicking, then you need to get your head out of the sand. These are clear logic flaws. These are the simplest things to avoid when you're making a movie. Now, I'm not talking about flaws with the movie. I'm talking about logic problems. When you present something on screen that just fundamentally does not make sense, that doesn't work. You have to give, as the film instructors say, the why. And if you think these are nitpicks, I don't know what to tell you. These are big, obvious, brutal logic flaws. So anyway, but this is the biggest one to me. The biggest logic flaw of the whole movie to me, which is this. At the end of the movie, Colonel Sigourney Weaver confirms to the Mandalorian, confirms to Mando that you're right. Janu sang like a bird. He told us that they were actually in league with the Hutts. The Hutts were playing both sides. They picked the Imperial side. They were working for them. Janu and the Hutts, they were working together. They were being fed information, blah, blah, blah. You were right. They picked a side and it wasn't our side, she says. Okay. This brings up a question. If the Hutts and Janu Coin are in communication and they're double-crossing the New Republic, and they're being given all the information by Janu, they know what the Hutts are doing, the Hutts know what he's doing, all that kind of stuff. If Janu Coin was getting ready to kill Rada the Hutt anyway, why did they send the Mandalorian? Why did the Hutts get and hire, why did they get the Mandalorian to go there to rescue Rada, who they want dead, when Janu Coin, who they are in league with as confirmed at the end of the movie, when he was about to kill him anyway? What was the point of that? It completely undermines the basic plot of the movie, a movie that changed plot admittedly 4 or 5 times throughout, but it just made no sense. We get the Mandalorian to go and get our kid so we can kill him. Where is he? Well, he's in the hands of our co-worker there, of our commandant over here, who's about to kill him anyway. So why are you sending the Mandalorian there? And by the way, they're trying to hide from the Mandalorian that Lord Commander Coin, whatever his name is there on the planet, and yet they send him right to the guy who knows that Janu is Janu Coin. Like, and then Mandalorian gets back, and the Hutts say, "Oh, you betrayed our deal. Now you must suffer." Wait a minute. I've seen this movie 5 times. The deal was go and rescue Rada. It was never the deal to bring him back to the Hutts. It was simply go and rescue Rada. That was the deal. Mandalorian should have said to him, "Hold up. I didn't break our deal. I honored the deal. I went and rescued Rada." That's a side point. Rob, to me though, the big thing, the entire foundation of the entire plot falls apart when Sigourney Weaver reveals at the end, "Oh yeah, John, who confirmed that they're in league with the Hutts and they've been feeding each other information. They're in league together. And the Hutts chose to actually side with the Empire." Well, then why send the Mandalorian? They were about to kill Rada anyway. There goes the entire plot of the movie. Anyway, those are just logic problems. I'm not even going to talk about the dialogue or the pacing or why did we have to see Mando fight the same fishmen twice in 2 different actions. I'm not talking about problems with the movie. I'm talking about the logic fallacies in it. Anyway, what do you think about any of the ones I just mentioned? Do you have any more to add to it?
Well, one of the things that I don't know if this is, first of all, I agree with everything you just said, but I have another one. So the Hutts wanted Rada liberated so they could kill him, so he wouldn't inherit Jabba's fortune,
which he didn't want anyway.
Which he didn't want anyway. Exactly. Why is it that these twins? I was like, don't they have their own criminal enterprise? When we met them, when they're in, they're on. They're in Moss, but I mean, when we saw them originally, didn't we see them in? We saw the twins first. Where did we see them? In Mandalorian, right? Earlier.
I don't remember now, to be honest.
Okay, they're already crime bosses. Like they've got this incredible empire. They've got this place they live in. They have literally how many people are on their payroll?
Was it Book
that
of
you
Boba
see
Fett?
working in their slug encampment? There's like hundreds of people there that are on their payroll. Aren't they already rich? And if Jabba the Hutt's criminal empire like collapsed, is suddenly do the children of criminals just inherit money through what, the banking system? I mean, I had a problem with like, why do you care where Jabba's money is going to go? I mean, it is his son. He's part of the family, and aren't you guys all part of the same criminal empire? Like I had a problem with it. I wouldn't call it a plot hole, but I don't understand. Like when you have in The Godfather, there is Vito Corleone, but you've got Sonny, you've got Fredo, you've got Michael, you've got Connie. There's an entire group of people, and then there's other families like they underneath the Corleone family, and within that, money is shared. I just didn't understand what was going on at all. But I think that you point out something the most egregious, which was your number one thing is, why did they send the Mandalorian to get him in the first place? First of all, why did the rebellion ever think that a criminal enterprise was going to be on the up and up with them?
Oh, yeah. As soon as Sigourney Weaver said in the movie, "We've been working a long time to establish a relationship with the Hutts," I'm like, no, the New Republic would not do that.
The same Hutt family that tried to have Luke Skywalker killed?
Yeah.
And Leia had to choke out?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's a criminal empire. You walk into that knowing that you're dealing with people that are going to most likely double cross you. And you've got.
By the way, can I just throw just a couple more little things?
Yeah.
Yeah. One in particular. How does this make sense? Well, there's 2 things. At the end, once they kill the twins, who are the droids now trying to work for? Who are the droids trying to protect? I mean, if their whole fear was that Rod of the Hutt is the true heir of Jabba the Hutt, isn't he in charge now? So that's a side thing, whatever. I'll put that aside. But the big one to me is near the middle of the movie when Zeb and Mando go in and get John Coin and they're escaping, all the stormtroopers who work for Coin are chasing them and shooting. They could kill their boss. But more than that, once they get on the Razor Crest and they're starting to fly away, the guards come chasing after them in their own ships, and they're trying to blow the Razor Crest up that their boss is in. I'm like, wait, how does this make any sense? Like, most movies at least have the common sense where they do the stereotypical thing as like, put your guns down, stupid, you might hit me. But at least that makes sense. Like, it made no sense to me. Why are these stormtroopers trying to blow up the ship that legitimately has him in the ship? I didn't get, whatever. I didn't put that one on my list, but that's just a side one. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Now, listen, by the way, I know I just spent this time talking about the logic problems of the movie. I still stand by the fact that I don't hate the movie. There were a number of things in it that I quite enjoyed. I don't particularly like the movie because of all the problems, but I also think there's some redeeming things in the movie. I really do. But when you're talking about a movie that took a 70% drop at the box office, you want to look at why. I think one of the big reasons is that there was absolutely zero sense of logic to this film. But at any rate, whatever you guys think about that, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. Hey, listen, James Gunn just revealed the first look at a practical suit of Lex Luthor's battle armor for the upcoming Man of Tomorrow. We're going to talk about that and a couple things more in just a minute. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Pocket Hose. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Pocket Hose. Guys, I'm excited to tell you about the world's #1 expanding garden hose and their brand new product, the Pocket Hose Ballistic. As you guys can imagine, I'm not exactly gentle with my gear. I drag hoses across concrete over the pool, yank them around corners. I even coil and uncoil them all the time to put them in my camper van when I go out on my movie meetups. And generally speaking, a lot of them don't last. But the Pocket Hose Ballistic has been a totally different story for me. It's incredibly durable, super lightweight, and just makes the whole job easier. One of my favorite things is how simple it is to use. You turn the water on, it expands. Turn it off, it shrinks right back down to pocket size. And it's reinforced with a liquid crystal polymer, the same kind of material used in bulletproof vests. Plus, it comes with the pocket pivot, which gives you 360-degree rotation at the spigot so it moves with you instead of fighting against you. And now, for a limited time, when you purchase a new Pocket Hose Ballistic, you'll get a free 360-degree rotating pocket pivot and a free thumb drive nozzle. Just text Campea to 64,000. That's CAMPEA to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Text Campea to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. And thank you to our friends at Pocket Hose for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this, shall we? Of course, we've got the follow-up to Superman coming out, I believe, next year with Superman Man of Tomorrow, which is going to feature a unlikely team-up between Superman and his arch nemesis, Lex Luthor, to fight a bigger threat, which is going to be Brainiac, of course. Now, when James Gunn first kind of gave word that we were going to get Man of Tomorrow, he released this image of Superman and Lex Luthor, which you can see down here in the lower third. And Lex Luthor, of course, wearing his battle armor, right? And we've seen that, you know, represented in comic books, represented in animation. Lex Luthor's got this battle armor because how else can you have like Lex Luthor and Superman have more than just a battle of wits? If they actually going to have a fight, you got to give Luthor something. So that's kind of become the core of that. Well, now James Gunn has revealed to the world that that wasn't just for an announcement. This is actually the look of his suit. As we take a look at this, James Gunn shared on his Instagram account this image of Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor at what he called a costume fitting test on set. Costume fitting on set of him actually in a practical suit. Now, I don't know if the practical suit is actually going to have some robotics in it. I don't know if it's only going to be practical in camera when he's standing still. and then go some CGI when he's moving and doing things. I don't know what the plan is right now. We can speculate and think about that later. All I know is I think this suit looks awesome. Now, it's not completely comic accurate. That's fine. But it's accurate enough, Rob. I always say this when it comes to costumes. As long as I can look at it and instantly identify what or who it is, then it's fine. I look at that outfit, Rob, and I see Lex Luthor's battle armor. Even though it's not, it's got some detail change. That's fine. You can clearly see and recognize right away what it is. Now, how powerful are they going to make this armor? Is it going to be kryptonite infused? Is it going to be some nuclear reactor infused, kind of like something like a Tony Stark sort of thing? I don't know. But clearly they had to give him something if he's going to fight shoulder to shoulder with Superman against Brainiac. Rob, I got to tell you what, sometimes the first look at a piece of equipment or armor or suit comes out and people react. I think from what I've heard, most people are pretty positive on the look of this suit. I think it looks terrific. What do you think about it?
I'm so down. I mean, all the way back to the superpowers figures in the 80s, the Lex Luthor in the powered suit. Sandy Kalura made a fan trailer for Superman Batman, a world's finest movie, and had Luthor in this suit. I wanted to see this in live action for a long, long time, and this looks very, very cool. And you know what, John? I got 2 words for you: hot toys. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I can see hot toys.
I will be buying this, man. They made a great Superman figure. Their Supergirl and Lobo figures look to be great.
You can stage them, the 3.
I know, and
Yeah.
I'm just this looks terrific, and can't wait to see it in action. Really,
So, okay.
It does make me that much more excited for the movie. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, so bring up the picture again there, Jonathan,
Okay.
of the suit. Now, you can clearly see, Holt's head in there. And by the proportions of it, you can see that the battle armor is much bigger than he is,
A
right?
little larger there.
And it's a practical suit. So my question is it actually going to function where he moves his arms, it'll make the larger arms move too? And will it have mechanisms in it that'll make him walk? Or is this going to be, Rob, when you look at it, do you think what we're looking at is a suit that will be practical when he's just standing still and talking or moving a little bit so it feels more real, like the practical Iron Man suit that was never real when he was in action? It was always CGI. Do you think this is going to be a practical suit just for standing around? Do you think they're going to CGI it once they go action? Do you think it's actually going to be a mobile enough suit that he could use it for action sequence? I don't know. What do you think they're going to do?
I think it's going to move, because when they're going to want to do medium close-ups or on him and see him in the suit so he can act, I'm sure it moves. But for wider shots and action scenes, it's going to be CG.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other way. I don't think that there's any other way to do it. But they did need a practical version of it, because if he's interacting with people, it's a lot easier to shoot an actor if he's talking to Superman in it. I mean, obviously, when it goes into action, it's going to be visual effects. But I think it was probably a smart move, because it allows some versatility where they can actually, 2 actors can interact with one another. And I think that's probably a good thing, but I don't think it probably moves all that well. It might, but I mean, I can't imagine that, he can throw a punch in that thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think my guess is they're probably going to do like the Iron Man thing, right? Where they actually did have a practical suit for sometimes Robert Downey Jr., sometimes somebody in the suit, that you could move it around for a limited amount to make it look more, feel more tangible in certain scenes. But the moment it becomes action sequences, then it becomes an issue of CGI. I think that's my guess is that's what they're going to do here. I don't know for sure, but that's probably my guess, is that if you're going to put him in the suit, you'll probably have some limited mobility, so he can maybe move around a little bit, move his hips, maybe move the arms a bit, maybe even walk a little bit, but then they'll cut over to CGI. Either way, I think the suit looks really good. It's going to be interesting to see how much they power it up or don't. So that's going to be something we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Do you like the look of the suit? Do you think it's a good one? Do you think it's a bad one? I actually think it looks really good. Were you hoping it would look a little bit different than it does with maybe something a little more attuned to one of your favorite animation variations of it, maybe a little bit more in line with one of your favorite comic representations of it? Or do you like it just the way it is? I think it looks great for live action. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys, the thousands of you guys in the live chat for being here. I've loved following your chat and discussion in the show. You guys have some great observations and great comments as well. Thank you for sharing with each other and with us. Of course, big thank you to our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
All right. See you guys later.
Of course, writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
You know, this discussion about the Mandalorian made me want to run out and see it again.
Not me. Five's good enough for me. That'll do it for me for now, guys. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.